We have a very special guest speaker today who is a lifelong intuitive and author. She's also kind of a lifelong member of Unity on and off, and she's always come back. Her workshops are always a hit here at Unity, covering topics such as connecting to the other side, grief counseling, career coaching. If you haven't had a chance to attend one of Sue's workshops, you will very soon. There's one coming up. She is also the author of several books, including her newest book, Water Oak, The Happiness of Longing. Please welcome Sue Frederick.
Take two. Okay, hello. Believe it or not, we did all this earlier, so the spirits are playing with us, I think. But what I'm here to talk about today, that's appropriate to know that the spirits are with us and playing with us, because I'm here to talk about the stories we tell and how important they are to heal us and connect us. Because we all know that the world is a little bit off kilter lately, a little bit, I don't want to say anything political, a little bit upsetting to people. And so how do we heal this? How do we heal our divine human connections? How do we heal and get back to our soul-to-soul relationships? Well, I think one of the solutions is telling and sharing our meaningful stories. And I have seen people from all different socioeconomic statuses, political viewpoints, drop all of this when we get down to the core of who we are and how we connect is through our pain and our love and all the stories that live deep inside of us. And often these are the stories that we don't share with people because we think they might be weird stories or they might encourage people to judge us. But these are the stories that once we share them, they heal and connect us. So I was recently honored to be a speaker at the International Association of Near-Death Studies conference. It was an amazing experience. There were people there talking about their near-death experiences, and there were scientists talking about all the research into these near-death experiences and validating thousands of case studies. Some of you know the book Proof of Heaven. Dr. Eben Alexander, he was there talking about his experience. He had been a brain surgeon, a neurosurgeon, and didn't believe in near-death experiences, and then went into a coma and had one of his own, and it's changed his life. So it was so fascinating to hear these stories. And everyone there who was sharing their stories told these amazing moments of dying, leaving their body, moving to another realm of love, of love that was indescribable, which we know is God. And connecting and merging with that love, and then being told by a divine being or deciding themselves that they weren't done yet and that they needed to come back here. And all of them talk about how horrible that was, that they had to come back here because they were so blissfully happy and merging with love on the other side. And they describe, the moment, the horrible moment that they had to come back and land in that body. And many of them described it the same way. They said, in the realm of suffering. Well, they also were talking about a thing that I hadn't realized had been given a name. It's called the shared death experience, not the near-death experience, the shared death experience. And I have a feeling that many of you here have had one of these shared death experiences. And I'm going to explain them to you. Heather, can we go to that first slide? The shared death experience is even a term coined by Dr. Raymond Moody many years ago. He wrote a book about it many years ago. I didn't realize this. The funny thing is I've been writing about my shared death experience for years, and even in my newest book I'd written about it, but I didn't know it had a name. So now it's being researched by scientists, and they're finding out that a huge percentage of people who are either caregivers, hospice workers, or just loved ones losing someone they love, they have this experience, and here's how they define it. A phenomenon closely related to near-death experiences is shared death experiences, as coined by Dr. Raymond Moody. In these experiences, bystanders who are close to a dying person experience many of the same aspects of the near-death experience along with the dying person, including leaving their bodies, meeting beings of light, and seeing the life review. Shared death experiences are common deathbed visions and near-death experiences that family, friends, and caregivers witness, along with a person who is dying as they pass from this life to the next. How many of you think you may have experienced something like this? I see some hands. I have a feeling most of us have, because our loved ones, when they're crossing over, it's a profound portal into the divine realms. And if we are connected, as all of you are, to someone you're either loving and caring for, or even if you're a caregiver, you will often have an experience. And I want to read an excerpt from my book, Water Oak, because this is my first shared death experience that I had in the 1980 when my husband Paul died. And I'm going to share it because I think you'll recognize something here for yourself. It was 1980, my husband was dying from colon cancer, and he had told me he really wanted to die at home in my arms. And I thought I could make that promise. And then, due to a sudden medical emergency, he ended up in the hospital, Boulder Community Hospital. And suddenly it was out of my control. He was in a coma in a hospital bed, and he was surrounded by doctors and nurses and family and friends, and I could no longer bring him home to die in my arms. So I felt guilty, which I think guilt is a wonderful thing. We all feel it over everything, but I bet that many of you who've lost a loved one have a guilt story you carry. Come to my workshop so that we can share our guilt stories. We write them down to the bone, and it's so healing. But anyway, I was leaning against the hospital wall, feeling like, oh my gosh, I let him down in his final wish. I didn't get to bring him home to die in my arms. And I was exhausted and grief-stricken and guilty, and I slid back against the wall and fell asleep in the hospital on the floor. And then this happened. Paul appears to me now in a dream, wakes me from a deep slumber on the floor beside the bed. He's vibrantly healthy, happy, and smiling, pulling me to stand up. Wake up, he says. Wake up and hold me like you said you would. I open my eyes and realize another day has cycled in through the window, illuminating us with rainy light, dappled and glowing. His labored breathing hasn't changed. Paul was just with me. He's ready to go, I say to his mother, moving to stand by the bed. She nods. We ask everyone to leave, and we stand beside him, looking out the window at the soft summer rain, the green, gentle foothills sloping upwards. We rub his arms and legs. Go play outside, my baby. I'll always love you. I'll be okay. You're free to go, I whisper in his ear. At those words, his tortured breathing stops. He takes one peaceful sigh, and the light leaves his body. I watch it rise and travel up through the window and out to the green hills. We move to the window watching. The rain seems to lift briefly, then sprinkle again. Sunlight peppering in through the clouds, shining in on us, a golden surprise. This is a moment beyond words. My logical mind can't understand it, but my heart and soul know I've just witnessed a miracle, an everyday miracle, a soul lifting peacefully from a body, slipping into the invisible. It's not a death. What a very wrong thing to call it. He shifted gracefully into something, purposefully, lovingly, towards, not away from. He freed himself, leaving like a gentle kiss. I feel giddy, without borders, lifted. I know in an instant that there is a rule, a divine law, a purpose to everything, to my life, to Paul's pain, that I've been guided and held to the task I came here to accomplish. I suddenly feel profoundly at peace. This sense of knowing follows me for days and weeks. I see the divine order within each moment, signs that all is well in every conversation with a friend, in the magical apartment that Paul reveals to me in a dream and I rent the next day. I feel light and free, untethered and joyful, without appetite for food or sleep. So this lasted for me for several weeks, and to the point where friends were worried about me. They were like, are you eating? Are you okay? I mean, I was happy. And then, of course, after a few weeks, my body crashed, and I came back to this realm, and I felt my grief, I felt my pain, and went through the grief that everyone does. But for those brief moments, those weeks after his death, I felt completely elevated to an altered state. Have any of you here ever experienced anything like this? Amazing number of hands going up. Let me tell you, this is a gift from your loved one, because it is a gift that your departed is showing you that all is well on the other side, that they are okay, and that love and divine order exists beyond the physical realm. So I have one more to tell you, because I think you'll also relate to this one. I had a childhood girlfriend named Chrissy, and she was my brilliant, smart girlfriend who made me laugh constantly from first grade on. And Chrissy had this creative sense of humor that would make me laugh so hard my stomach would hurt. I'm sure you guys have had those kinds of friends that make you just laugh and laugh and laugh until your stomach muscles are killing you. Well, Chrissy was that way, and we went through grade school and high school together, and then we went off to our separate lives. She was so smart. She was one of the first women to get into Georgetown University in 1969, and I went to University of Missouri and then ended up out here. And when I fell in love with Paul, and Paul and I got married, Chrissy came out to visit, and she loved Paul. They had a great relationship. And when Paul died, Chrissy came back out to visit, and we went skiing because she wanted to get me back into my body. She told me that. She said, you know, you've always been an exerciser, a physical person. We got to get you back in your body. And we went downhill skiing, and that worked. But along the way, she fell and hurt her leg that day, and she got a bad bruise. And we both kind of marveled at about how big that bruise was. It was very impressive. And I drove her to the airport, but she got on the plane to fly to Berkeley, where she was living. And by the time she landed in Berkeley, her body was covered with bruises, and she was diagnosed with the really bad kind of leukemia. And don't say, oh, it's okay. Chrissy is so powerful over on the other side. Trust me, she has let me know. And this is how she let me know. When she was diagnosed, I went through a lot of existential crises with Paul dying and then Chrissy being sick. So I moved to Mexico to teach fitness, as one does. At a place that my girlfriend had created called Los Aerobicos de Mazatlan. Picture it, it's 1981, right? Yep, that's what I did. Not that I recommend it, but Um, and so I was far away from any communication. I knew that Chrissy had gotten better. She had gone through the bone marrow transplant. She was surrounded by her family and friends, and she had told me by phone that she thought she was totally cured. And I was living in Mazatlan, and one night, she was with me all night. And the way she was with me is what I want you to understand. Suddenly, all night long in my dreams and my sleep, Chrissy was making me laugh. We were laughing and playing. I remember her taking me places and pointing things out, and we were giggling and giggling. My stomach was hurting. I even would wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh, wow, I got to get back to that dream. This is so much fun. And I'd get back into my dream, and Chrissy was there, and we were laughing and flying around, and my stomach was hurting from laughing with her. And I woke up in the morning and went, oh, my God, it was so great. Oh, no. I was with Chrissy all night. And I went to the phone, to the operator, and you had to make an operator-to-operator call, and it could take hours to get a phone call back. And by the time I got a call back, it was her mother telling me that Chrissy had died in a coma last night. But what a beautiful gift. She came to show me in a way that my body could experience, laughing with her, that the divine realms are awesome and so much better than here, and that I did not need to grieve for her, that she was having a great time. Thank you, Chrissy. She's come back many other times to counsel me, although I don't listen enough. She tried to keep me out of my relationship with Emilio, the scuba diving instructor in Mexico. Didn't work. But I'm going to tell you one more, because I'm sure you guys are recognizing moments of these in your own lives. And you will notice in the future, if you lose someone you love, you will notice that extraordinary moment of being taken into another realm. So when my husband Paul died, I said to my father, my poor dad, he was my person. I said to him, Dad, you can't ever die. And my friends will tell you, I tell this to everybody, but I really meant it with my dad. I said, Dad, I can't be here without you. I can't. And that was a terrible burden to put on him, but he lived up to it for a long time, and he was really my person, even though we didn't live in the same part of the country. And then suddenly, by the phone calls, I knew he was dying. He had not been diagnosed with anything, but my family was telling me he was depressed and he had backaches and the doctors hadn't found anything wrong. I knew his soul was choosing to leave. And I remember finally I had to write a letter to him and say, Dad, if it's your time to go, I let you go. I release you. I don't want you staying in your body and suffering for me or for anyone. We will all be okay. And my father, according to my brother who worked with my dad, my father read that letter and went home, left the office, went home, and basically in 3 days was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. And they just gave him a few weeks to live. Well, I know he had it for a long time. The tumor was hidden behind his heart, but he was trying to fight it for people who loved him. And fortunately, once he was diagnosed, he died quickly afterwards because my dad never wanted to be sick. Never wanted to be sick. But on the day he was dying, he was in the hospital. And I had flown home with my baby daughter, and siblings were all trying to take care of my dad, and my mom was there. And because by this time I had lost so many people I loved, I felt like I had a PhD in letting go. I mean, if you tell me you have a headache, I'm going to go, well, don't stay here if it's your time to go, you know. But with my dad, I knew he was leaving, and I was trying to get my siblings on board. They're younger than me. They hadn't really experienced death. Even my mother wasn't on the same page, and they wouldn't sign those do not resuscitate orders in the hospital. And even the nurses and doctors were saying, there's really nothing we can do. You really should sign these papers. And my family is Catholic, and they were saying, no, we have to do everything we can to try to save him. So one day I said, my father's going to die today. I know this. I can feel it. Let me be here to help him cross over peacefully. And my family, because we all have big karma with our families, my family said, no, Sue, it's your day to take the kids home and babysit. And it's true. It was my day to take the kids home. All of us had young kids. And so I was pouting and grumping and being my pitiful self, and I got all the toddlers in the car, and we headed home to grandmother's house, and I got them down for a nap, and I was like, I'm the one who should be there. And I thought, I better quiet my monkey mind and just sit down and meditate, because I've been meditating since the 70s. Thank God I did. And thank God we meditate, because the moment I sat down on that couch to meditate, my Father appeared to me in the most clear spirit form, looking 20 years younger, healthy, happy, and joking around with me, making me laugh. My dad, we'd always teased him when he was younger, Dad, you should go to clown school. You love making people laugh. That's what you should have done for your career. But we hadn't seen that part of him for years. And here he was in front of me, joking around, being his goofy, funny self. And it was so real that at first I was like, Dad, what are you doing? And then I opened my eyes and came out of my meditation and went, Dad, what are you doing? And picked up the phone, and I called the hospital room, and my brother Jim answered. And I said, Dad just appeared to me. And he said, no, Sue, Dad's having a heart attack right now. And the nurses and doctors are trying to revive him, and it's chaos in here. And I said, but Jim, he's not there. He's not there. And I thank my Father so much for coming to show me that even when it looks like your loved ones are in their final moments of suffering, their spirits have already moved on. Their spirits aren't in that body. They are already traveling to their loved ones. They are already coming to see how everyone is and comfort the people who are in pain. I promise you this. And if you have lost a loved one or are about to lose a loved one, be comforted in knowing that this is the realm of learning and evolution and pain, and that is the realm of pure divine love. So, while I was talking or listening to everyone talk at these conferences, I started thinking about what I'm calling shared life experiences. Heather, the next one. Yeah. So this is my Dr. Raymond Moody term. This is the Sue Frederick term, shared life experiences. How we need to share not only our near-death experiences with each other, our shared death experiences, but our shared life experiences with each other. That these are the stories that connect us. These are the stories that help us remember that we're all just souls on a journey of evolution and learning. And I call these are the stories when we bear our deepest guilt, our greatest shame, a moment that opened our heart forever, a moment of profound loss, our most profound hope for the future. How often do you share these stories with your friends, with your coworkers, with your family? I think it's amazing to me that children can grow up with parents and never really know how those parents became who they are, because the parents aren't sharing the moment that they might have done something wrong or become a drug addict because they don't want to make their children judge them or think that that's okay. But these stories of our guilt, of our pain, of our self-doubt, of our fear, these are the things that make us all go, oh, he's just like me. We can get through this. We'll all be okay. The reason I wrote Water Oak, my personal story, and trust me, this is not a book that makes you think I'm a great human being by any means. I spill all my stories in this book about everything from losing my husband to growing up in the South and not fitting in, but I share it down to the bone, to the guilt, to that raw, jagged self-doubt that we all carry. And these are the conversations that save us and heal us and connect us. If you and I are sitting together in a room somewhere and we start chatting, doing our small talk thing, it'll be kind of fun and peppy for a minute. And then maybe one of us says something about, the politics of the day. And then the other person could be suddenly going, ooh, I don't agree. And now there's this chasm between us. This happens every day, especially now. Whereas what if we're sitting in that room and everything falls away but us, whispering our stories to each other? And you tell me about the moment that you were diagnosed with a mental illness and how it changed your life. And I tell you about the moment Chrissy visited me all night and made me laugh on the night she died. Or you tell me about something that you've carried inside that's guilt. And we do this in my workshops and classes. And when these stories are revealed, not only do they connect us, but they heal us. Because then we remember, yes, we are the same. Any of you who were here from my Unity workshop last month, people walked into that workshop looking like your everyday, people who've never had really interesting lives like all of us look. And people started writing their moments of deepest, darkest pain, of guilt, of doubt, of fear. And then I made them stand up and share them, read them to the group and share them with partners. You would be blown away by the people going, we are all the same. I have that same guilt. It takes a different form, but it's the same. Now we're back to remembering that we're souls on a journey, that we are not separate personalities here having chatty little small talk parties. I challenge all of you to go home today and share your true selves with people in your lives that you may be afraid to share it with. I think at work, it could definitely make a difference with people if they actually sat together and talked about who they really are beyond the surface. And I think if you work at a job where that's too scary for you and you think you'd be ridiculed, then it's time to find a new career, because we need to become our true, authentic selves 24/7. This is what can save our planet right now. Because right now, it's so much idea and belief and monkey mind in charge. And we're all victim to it. But here, this is where we heal it. This is where we realize, in fact, I'll share this little piece. I was watching the news. I try not to watch it, but I was watching it. And I saw this video of a leader of the white supremacist group in Charlottesville. And he was showing all of his weapons, and he was going, yeah, it was a good day because nobody on our side died. And at first, my mind wanted to go, oh my God. But then I thought, listen to that man's pain. What happened to him growing up? Who abused him so much and made him feel so much self-doubt that he can't even recognize his own pain that's motivating him to want to help others? And what if we all somehow could get down back to those stories, back to saying, at the end of the day, the people who are acting mean and hurtful are usually the most hurt people. And until we begin to help each other with that, and the biggest problem is that the people who are in so much pain that they're acting out with hate, they won't even look at their own stories. They did not deny it. We all have a spin we put on. I'm the big successful businessman, or I'm the this or that. That is total baloney. What's at the core is a soul struggling every day to step up to our divine selves, to choose love over fear, and often not making it. And what's wrong with our world right now is that we're going into anger and blame, and we need to go into healing and connecting. And I really think it doesn't matter now what happens in the government or in politics. Our fabric of our humanity is being ripped apart, and all of you can help heal it by getting back to the core of who you are, who your loved ones are, who your friends are, and only sharing and connecting there. If we don't do this now, we are responsible for how crazy this world has gotten. And if you have a family member, as I do, who is basically a white supremacist, I have promised my friends and my workshop people who come to my workshops that I will heal it with him. And I am trying so hard to get him to talk to me and let's get back to who we were when we were kids and we loved each other. I want to share one other story and then I'll quickly be done. But when I was teaching a workshop in June at Shambhala Mountain Retreat, this beautiful man who was there grieving his sister told us this story. He said, "My sister and I were very close as children, and then she took one political path, one lifestyle path, and I took another, and we basically got estranged from each other. And then she died suddenly. And he was so broken over the grief and over the guilt that he had not reached out and tried to heal it with her. And he said this beautiful line that I'll never forget. He said, 'I forgot how much I loved her.' And I made the whole workshop repeat that. I forgot how much I loved him." It's time to start remembering that. It's time to try to get back to who we are. I want to read one more thing. Heather, the next slide. John Steinbeck said it well. Why we have to tell our stories. We are lonesome animals. We spend all our life trying to be less lonesome. One of our ancient methods is to tell a story, begging the listener to say and to feel, yes, that's the way it is, or at least that's the way I feel it. You're not as alone as you thought. One more, Heather, next one. And this is from my book, Your Divine Lens. And when you take your final bow, it matters how honestly you spoke your lines, how bravely you faced the audience. If you played your role with every ounce of heart you could muster, it matters how true your words rang out into the night, filling the audience with hope, sorrow, and understanding. Your poetry drifting into a moonlit sky. But the play's the thing, and it gets me out of bed. It's the thing that holds us together, waiting for the divine reveal. We hope for one word of unbroken truth to fall into our hearts and touch us so deeply that for a brief instant, we remember who we are and leap to our feet shouting, "Bravo!" For that one moment, we see the perfection of horror and beauty. We understand the play of light and shadow, and it illuminates us. Last slide, Heather. I want you all to promise me something. I want you to make me this promise today, please, if you can. Promise me that you will not live in the monkey mind on the surface of life 24/7, that you will share your stories with others, that you will open your heart and bare your soul, even when you're most afraid of doing that. That's the catch. Promise me you will ask others to tell you their most hidden stories, their darkest nights, their deepest pain. Promise me you will not tell the story of your glories and victories without also telling the story of your darkest despair, your hopeless nights, your deepest losses. Those are the stories I want to know about you. Those are the stories of our shared humanity, our shared divinity. Promise me that you will go home today and share a raw, jagged story with your family or with a friend, and eventually with the world. Our stories reveal the chord of our divine connection. This connection will save our lives, especially now. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.